Oh! Hello, fellow film fans. Today I'll be reviewing the 1996 film THESIS, which was directed by Alejandro Amenábar and released on 4K Blu-ray combo by Umbrella Home Entertainment. The disc came out around mid-October. It's available as a standard release or as a limited numbered collector's edition, which is what I have. The packaging with this edition is loaded. It includes a 48-page book with Q&As and essays by David Michael Brown and Nadine Whitney, and a bunch of behind-the-scenes art. So that's this one here. And just to kind of give you an idea of what's in there, it's pretty loaded, pretty compact, but pretty loaded. It also includes a fold-out A3 reversible poster, which is this guy here. It has on one side the English version and on the other side the Spanish version. I don't know if either is really a true indication of what the movie's about, but still pretty cool artwork, and I think I prefer the Spanish version. Also includes 8 replica lobby cards, which are here. Just to give you an idea of what we're looking at. And the disc itself has a slipcover right here. And it's double-sided, so and all of that fits very snugly into this rigid, hard slipcover. The disc is also packed with extras, and it looks like the standard edition gets them as well, although the quality is a bit hit or miss. It has 2 audio commentaries. One is by Amenábar, and either he's so incoherent or the translation is so bad, I'm guessing the latter, that I found it nearly impossible to follow. The other is by critic and writer Alexandra Heller-Nicholas, who also did a video essay for the Arrow video release of Mute Witness, making her, I suppose, the authority on movies about snuff films. She does provide interesting context, but she seems so caught up in the genre that she puts undue value on movies that broach it. The disc also includes an interview and a special introduction by Amenábar, a video essay by Josh Nelson, a making-of featurette, deleted scenes, the Spanish theatrical trailer, and Hymenoptero, a short film from Amenábar shot in the same university building as THESIS with similar themes. Like I said, tons. If you like this movie, you'll have plenty to dig into. Overall, the transfer was decent. I'm guessing the source material for both picture and audio wasn't great, so they didn't have much to work with. But the picture quality was good, if a little too noisy, and the sound was good. They have a DTS Master Audio 5.1 and 2.0 audio tracks. I watched with the 5.1 track, and like I said, it was great. My biggest issue with the disc was the translation for the English subtitles. It had typos, weird spellings, and misused words like screamish instead of squeamish. Or my personal favorite, when the main character talks about being pressured into doing something, she exclaims, "He pressurized me!" As I mentioned earlier, this was also a problem in Amenábar's commentary, making it almost impossible to tell what points he was trying to make. Now for the movie. And as usual, this review will contain spoilers. THESIS falls in a not-so-long line of films about snuff films. It's an interesting subgenre because snuff films haven't been proven to actually exist. But that hasn't stopped the occasional filmmaker from trying to make us think otherwise. In that vein, these are more like monster or ghost stories. In most movies that broach the topic, the films are used to accentuate the depravity of the world in which the story and characters travel, or maybe more specifically, the type of people they encounter. In Paul Schrader's Hardcore, they're part of the world into which George C. Scott descends when searching for his daughter. In 52 Pickup, the film was part of a blackmailing scheme but served its purpose of increasing the stakes and, frankly, giving us something disturbing to witness. Films like the atrocious 8mm and the terrific Mute Witness, which I mentioned before from Arrow Video, are more centered around the topic, with the latter presenting a wholly believable world in which those films would be produced. In Amenábar's thesis, the snuff film is also intended as the focal point, but that aspect ends up drifting into irrelevance, while the movie outside of the movie falls flat. Anna Torrent plays Ángela, a grad student writing her lowercase thesis on audiovisual violence. We're given a glimpse into her morbid curiosity in the opening scenes when she and the other passengers of the train she's riding are diverted from a horrible accident as they disembark. While the rest of the passengers comply, Ángela deviates from the group to get a closer look. Is her fascination abnormal? In the context of the movie, yes. In reality, probably not at all. We've put terms like rubbernecking into our lexicon for a reason. At the university, she finds Chima, played by Feli Martinez, the resident expert on distaste whose improbably large apartment has just enough space to house his morose collection of death-related decorations. Despite being a shock movie expert, he has a tiny collection of movies, some porn, exploitation, and hyper-violent flicks. Ángela sits down to watch as Chima shows her the best of what he's got. These turn out to be Faces of Death type movies, compilations of random deaths caught on film, or so I've been told. Meanwhile, Ángela has asked her professor to comb the university's film archives for anything in the realm of the old ultra-violence. Despite the awkwardness of requesting such material, he complies. Amenábar cuts between these two sequences, conveniently showing us at once two of the biggest problems with Thesis: the lack of character development and real suspense. Chima is a loner with incel vibes, but is completely indifferent to a beautiful woman coming to his apartment. He doesn't seem attracted to her or intimidated by her or otherwise affected by her presence. If anything, he's annoyed by her presence. He's not uncomfortable with the messiness of his place, with seeing her move his dirty underwear off a chair so she can sit, with shoving aside more dirty laundry and trash so he himself can sit on his bed. Ángela, on the other hand, aside from being initially hesitant to follow him inside, doesn't exhibit any qualms about going to this guy's house, and she herself doesn't feel uncomfortable, or doesn't look uncomfortable. The two show zero tension where plenty would be expected. One could argue this is nitpicking, but it shows that Amenábar doesn't see these characters as real people with desires and emotions, only as two-dimensional devices in service of the plot. Any kind of depth that we could have inferred from them is missing, and that extends to the rest of the movie and colors its overall flatness. With nothing beneath the surface to bite into, the acting is flat, the dialogue nothing more than words to recite. The professor, meanwhile, is looking through the vast archives. He knew someone else was inside before he went in, and when he hears that person later on, he quickly ducks behind one of the rows of VHS tapes, trying not to be seen. With fear in his face, he sneaks around until he finds his way out in a drawn-out sequence that flirts with absurdity. This is a strong foreshadow into what's to come. Amenábar tries too many times in Thesis to create suspense where none exists. Nevertheless, it's in these archives where the professor finds a snuff film, which eventually lands in Ángela's hands. She can't bring herself to do more than listen to the film by herself, so she brings the tape to Chima's place, where she watches it Miles Davis style with her back to the TV. "It's real! It's awful!" Chima shouts at the TV, giving her the play-by-play. Got it. Thanks for the insight. The film itself is what you'd expect from a snuff film depicted by a film about snuff films. The poor victim is bound to a chair, pleading for mercy as she's beaten and killed. To Amenábar's credit, he spares, or deprives, depending on your point of view,
a certain point of view,
the audience as well from seeing the evil deed, showing just enough in flashing glimpses to let us know it's horrific. This makes his critique of the curiosity a bit more genuine than, say, Emerald Fennell's critique of obscene wealth in Saltburn, while simultaneously basking in it.
Oh, bliss! Bliss, bliss, bliss.
Ángela and Chima watch enough together to collect a few clues. The victim knows the perpetrator, and the camera itself has a standout feature supposedly making the make and model easily identifiable. Okay, game on. Not long after, as in almost the very next scene, Ángela is in the cafeteria at school and sees another student who happens to have the same camera. It's in the hands of Bosco, played by Eduardo Noriega. When he leaves the cafeteria, Ángela follows him, setting off a cat-and-mouse sequence. He notices her following him, appearing out of nowhere with a slightly menacing grin. She tries to casually walk away. He, of course, starts following her back. Her casualness slowly turns into a brisk walk to get away from him. As she picks up her pace, he picks up his, and soon enough, it's a full-on chase. You might be thinking this all happens at night in dark alleys and secluded parking garages, but no. It's in the middle of the day, inside the main building of the university, with people everywhere going about their college business. Since nothing real or organic instigated all this, it turns what Amenábar intended as suspense into laughable farce, especially when Ángela ducks out of the heavily trafficked college hallways into a desolate corridor, possibly the one area in the entire building with no one visible or within earshot. In the commentary, best as I could tell, Amenábar calls this chase the icing on the cake for a director who loves to play with the camera. The camera work during the chase is indeed effective, with clever movements to show where someone is hiding or stalking, but none of this is a good reason to include a long, unnecessary sequence. If he weren't so enamored with the chase scene, he might have seen it probably would have been more effective to end on Bosco's menacing stare than have Ángela meekly walking away. This might have left some mystery to Bosco, some mystery as to what will happen next, etc., instead of the flat exchange that ends all this when he catches her. In another moment of drummed up suspense, Ángela and Shima are deep in the film archives where they find a secret maze of tunnels, corridors, and rooms, and possibly the biggest indication that the snuff films are connected to someone at the school. The door closes behind them, locking them into this labyrinth, then all the lights go off. Never mind that whoever is behind this needs to know how to cut the power to the building, or even just this part of the building. Ángela's reaction is so over-the-top panicked and terrified that it lets the wind out of whatever suspense this might have created. No one is actually in this room with them, so they weren't facing an immediate threat. Instead of feeling her fear, we're wondering what she's so worked up about. The introduction of Bosco presents some mild interest. Shima doesn't trust him, but Ángela does, at least enough to think he might guide her to the bottom of the snuff film mystery. This creates conflict between the three of them, since neither we nor Ángela know whom to trust. It comes to fruition in the climax where one is probably the killer, the other is trying to save Ángela. We don't know which one is which, and we don't care really either way. That brings me back to my initial gripes with THESIS. Between the characters and the superficial suspense, the movie is so dull that by the time we might otherwise care about what's happening, we've lost interest. Ángela twice finds herself in the same predicament as the victim in the snuff film, and both times, but especially at the end, it hardly matters. Possibly worse is that Amenábar fails to explore this world after he introduces it to us. We see a little about the people behind the making of the snuff movies, with the idea that one person shoots them and the other edits them. Are they distributing them? Are they making them for someone else who handles that end? Who's buying them? Where's the market? Amenábar never explores those questions, much less answers them. The result is a formulaic thriller straight out of 1990s American cinema, where the plot device becomes irrelevant, and it's just a matter of figuring out who the killer is before the hero becomes the next victim. So those are my thoughts on THESIS. I give it a 5 out of 10. Overall, it just fell flat. If you like this video, please feel free to give it a like. If you enjoy my channel's content, please feel free to subscribe. If you'd like to start a conversation, feel free to drop a comment down below, and I try to respond to everybody. Otherwise, as always, thank you for watching, and I'll see you next time.